Hello again, everybody. The Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you this evening on the Mike Francesa channel on the Bet Rivers Network on YouTube after St. John's big semifinal win at the Garden. So now with their win against Marquette, which was tense early because they got down 15, didn't play well early, got a 10-point lead in the second half. You know, they make that patented second half run, being down two at half where they want to be. They're a second half club. They weigh you down. They got the lead to 10. They got sloppy, missed free throws, typical, especially Richmond, which is going to be something to watch in the NCAA tournament. And then they came back and just blew them away the way they always do. And they didn't do it with Lewis, who usually does it down the stretch and usually is the guy in the second half and was player of the year, and rightly so. They did it with Zuby rather than Lewis, and Zuby was just, tremendous. He had an incredible game, probably the best game of his career. Lewis had a very, very shaky shooting game. He was 4 for 18. Zuby wound up with 33 points and 9 rebounds. He was the best player on the floor. He was active defensively. He was smart with the ball. He did everything right, and he finished drives time and time and time again. St. John's missed a lot of open shots, but hey, if St. John's makes threes, I've told you before, write the number down. If they make, I'm not even going to make it 10. I'm going to make it 9. If they make 9 threes in a game, they're unbeatable. They are. Nobody in this country, not even Duke, not even Auburn, nobody in this country will beat them if they make 9 threes in a game. But it's almost it takes them 3 games to make 9, usually. Here's why this game tomorrow is so pressure packed. Not that they're not going to the NCAA tournament, they are. Not that they're not going to be seeded well, they are. But this is such an important year. It's become such a magic carpet ride year for Pitino and St. John's that they want everything to fall into place the way it can. And this is how it can fall into place. Tomorrow night, they beat the winner of the last game tonight, which is Creighton and UConn, which is kind of a toss up game. I could see it going either way. I thought UConn played well finishing the game off against Villanova, but Creighton can shoot you out of the ballpark anytime. They played miserably last night and got a gift beating DePaul. They should have lost. DePaul was valiant last night, but they just threw the game away in the last minute of regulation. Um, Here's why. Yes, winning that Big East championship. And remember, the regular season, which is the harder achievement, doesn't get you the automatic, doesn't get you the crown. The crown comes with the tournament. It has to, otherwise, why have the tournament? If you crowned the regular season champion, the tournament would be worthless. So they have these tournaments as money makers, so they have to attach the trophy and the title to the tournament. They have no choice. Even though it's ridiculous, you play for 3 months and you play 9 million games, and that really decides who's best. You can have a bad day, have an injury over 4 days and lose, but that's the way this is because it's all set up by economics. The championship goes to tomorrow night's team, but that's not the point. Yes, they want to cut down the nets. Yes, they do. But the bottom line is tomorrow night with a win, they can get a 2 seed and they can stay in the East. And the way Duke's playing right now and having the Cooper flag problem, okay, which we don't know going into, they're going to make Duke the number 1 seed. They've earned that. They'll be in the East. Auburn will be in its region as the 1 seed. Duke will be in its region as the 1 seed. St. John's, who everyone has plugged in, all these guys who are bracketologists have had them as a 3 seed all along. I think they're going to move up to the 2 line if they win tomorrow night. There's no reason to move them out of the East. Send them to Providence, send them to Newark. Have Duke in the same bracket. Having Duke in the bracket now, not knowing what kind of shape Cooper Flag is going to be into going into his first game, is a huge advantage for St. John's. Plus, St. John's will have a home field advantage. They'll have plenty of fans in Providence, and they'll have a ton of fans in Newark. So this is an enormous game tomorrow night. Yes, they won the regular season title easily. They're the best team in the Big East, but they need tomorrow to be a 2 seed because they haven't had enough quality wins this year. This win over Marquette didn't open any eyes for the committee. St. John's just won at Marquette last week. So beating him in Madison Square Garden, which is their home away from home and really their home, is not a huge surprise. So St. John's doesn't have the ability to climb a lot in the Big East because the Big East does not have highly ranked teams this year other than St. John's. But the way they have finished the season, the fact that they're coached by Pitino, and don't think that coaches with histories like Pitino and Izzo don't make the committee raise them in seeding because they know they're going to be prepared. They know they're going to play well because they know how good they are. They've watched them for countless years. So those guys, I think Michigan State with one more win will be a 2 seed. I think Michigan State's going to win that league probably anyway. I think Michigan State, which is playing great, St. John's, which has played great all year. They've been in every game all season. Even the games they've lost have come down to one possession. Every single one has come down to one possession. They have played great all season, but they haven't played an incredibly good schedule because the Big East came up soft this year. UConn fell apart. As far as UConn, they opened the season, they were ranked 2 in the second week of the season. They're not even ranked. Marquette's down in the 20s now. So these teams have not had the year that they thought they were going to have. So the wins don't carry the quality that we thought they would. So this, though, tomorrow is such a big deal for them to cut down the nets at Madison Square Garden, to carry the trophy, okay, to win the regular season and to win the Big East tournament, to have done this after being barren for so many decades. St. John's, remember, hasn't had a great year in 40 years. They haven't done anything in 20 years. This means everything to them. So there was pressure on them today, and they handled that very well. There'll be pressure on them tomorrow, and I don't think either of these teams that'll play them tomorrow, either UConn or Creighton. UConn's a slight favorite; they should be, but either one could win the game tonight. Creighton's had enough good games; UConn's had enough bad games that nothing would surprise me in the nightcap. But I think St. John's is going to handle either one, and winning that game, I think, will set them up as a 2 seed. I think that will be really, really important. That not only it sets them up as a 2 seed, but gives them, I think, a very good. Now you never know what they're going to do. You see, the bracketing this year is going to be very weird for this reason. They are going to have so much trouble seeding the SEC. There are no rules anymore. When you're going to get 13 teams out of one league, there are no rules anymore. It used to be you didn't have teams match up against each other until the final 8. They could keep everybody away from each other until the final 8. Now they can't do that anymore because you got 13 SEC teams. So there's going to be SEC representation in every bracket. But there's no reason Duke historically lives in the 1 when they have a year like this. They should not be hurt by the Cooper Flag injury. They were winning tonight by 21 at half, and they had a bad second half, and they won the game. Let me see what the final score was there. Might not be over yet. Duke's only up 2 points with 30 seconds left. They were up 21 at half. So they played well in the first half, but completely lacked Cooper Flag's leadership. He's the leader of that team as a freshman in the second half. And Carolina has a chance to pull off a stunner. And they were down 45-24 at the half. Can you imagine Duke blowing a 21-point lead? There was 20 seconds left in that game, and they're up 1. So they could still lose that game right now. They'll be a 1 seed anyway, and Cooper Flag will be iffy in that first game. Now, they don't need him to win a 116 game. I know he'd like to play in that game. They'd like to at least get him on the court in that game. He's got 8 days to rest, and they do marvelous things now with ankle sprains over 8 days. But it still raises a question mark about who they are without Cooper Flag, who clearly, in my mind, has been player of the year this year and will be the number 1 player in the draft. He won't be back at Duke. Duke paid him a lot of money to go there this year, but he's not going to stay. He's going to go because he's going to be first in the draft. And if you don't go out when you're first in the draft, you're out of your mind. So I don't think there's any way. And the headline was going to be that Duke came up with a big effort against Carolina, leading 45-24 at the half, but they have been outscored 47-27 in the second half by a mediocre Carolina team. A Carolina team that has virtually nothing on their resume. Nothing. So it just shows you how much they have missed Cooper Flag's leadership. But Cooper Flag should be able to play in the tournament. I don't think there's any reason to believe he won't. Now, so Duke will be the 1. St. John's should be the 2 with a win tomorrow night. I think they'll get that win tomorrow night. It will set up a great moment at Madison Square Garden. It will be the culmination of a brilliant season, but it's only a stepping stone for Pitino, who wants to go cut down another net. Now, is St. John's capable of doing that? They are a badly flawed team offensively. We know that. They are terrible from 3. They're bricklayers. Richmond can't make an outside shot despite his versatile game and his power game to the basket, and he also can't make free throws. Zuby tonight, who has been struggling on the line and put up 33 points and played his best game of the year, maybe the best game of his career, also had a really good game on the foul line tonight. I mean, he was 11 for 12. I mean, very un-Zuby-like. But they struggle to score. We know that. St. John's wound up 5 for 18 from 3, which is pretty much typical of what they do. I mean, they've won games this year when they went 1 for 21 from 3. They did that against Butler. The bottom line is, if St. John's makes threes, nobody beats them. Can they win a championship? Yes. But they're going to have the ball drop for them. They're going to have to make big shots. And just as importantly, in games 2, in games 3, and especially anything past game 3, they'll get an easy game 1. And they'll rout a team because, as I said to you the last time we talked, nobody is going to have a backcourt that can handle their pressure that's a 14 or a 15 seed. And St. John's is at least a 3, and I think now a 2 if they win tomorrow night. So that means they get a 15, and there's no 15 that's going to have a backcourt that can play with them. They're going to wear anybody out, and they are going to just harass that team into oblivion. After that, they could get an easy second-round matchup. They could get a tough one. After that, they're all tough. And there's going to be a game where they need to make a shot. And there's going to be a game where they're going to have the ball in Richmond's hands, and he's going to get fouled, and he's going to go to the foul line to shoot a 1-on-1, and he's going to have to make it. And he shoots 57% from the foul line. When you have the guy who has the ball in his hands down the stretch, now they could put the ball in Smith's hands in the last 5 minutes, but he's not a bad playmaker, but he's turnover prone. He gets his shot blocked, and he's not Richmond. Richmond makes the right play. He makes the right pass. The rest of his game, his defense, his passing, his rebounding, superb. His shooting, he's a bricklayer. He's a jump shot away from being a really good NBA player. But he's got an awful shot. And he's an awful foul shot shooter. He's 57% this year. But they are capable of harassing and beating anybody in the country because they will not back off. They are completely relentless. They are suffocating the way Houston has been suffocating. Some people say Houston or Tennessee's a better defensive team. I think St. John's the best defensive team in the country because they can switch everything. And because of Zuby's ability to switch, which means you don't double a lot, and Zuby's ability to play even a smaller player over a lot of the court. That's a great achievement that he can do that. And without having to need a lot of help, it allows them to stay with their man and doesn't give up open shots. Their defense is utterly brilliant and relentless. Their offensive rebounding the same way. Their ability to go from defense to offense, superb. But when you get them in a half court, they can have long droughts. And that's where they run into big trouble. So they'll carry this Achilles heel into this tournament, but they also will carry the coaching of Pacino, who's an all-time great. They're a hot team. They're a confident team. They're a cohesive team, and they're a great defensive team. And they have a chance to have a really strong tournament, and they have an outside chance to win it all. Would I be shocked if they got to the Final Four? I would not. If they're playing Duke and Cooper Flagg shows he's 100%, it's a really tough game because Duke's good on both ends of the floor. But without Cooper Flagg, Duke wouldn't have a chance. And you saw them tonight. I didn't get to watch the game because I watched St. John's, but they clearly melted down in this ball game tonight. Because how else can you possibly, in any way, see a Duke team give up a 21-point halftime lead to a mediocre, absolutely mediocre Carolina team? That's absolutely almost hard to understand. And it looks like right now, as I look at this, that Carolina went to the line, down one with 4 seconds left, and missed the first. And now we'll take a second that could send this game into overtime. They missed the first, though. They had a chance to maybe win this game. There's still 4 seconds left. So this might send you rushing to the game, but if it does, I understand. But they're about to shoot a free throw. It looks like they had a lane violation, Carolina. That's unbelievable. So it looks like Duke will be getting the ball with 4 seconds left of one after they fouled. 2 free throws with 4 seconds left, and Carolina didn't make either of them. We'll see if that preserves this Duke victory. They lead 72-71 with 4 seconds left. So, again, that sets an enormous scene tomorrow night. And it is it's an important game on so many levels, much more than it should be for a team that's going to be seeded as high as St. John's, because some of these teams don't care if they win their conference tournament, especially if they've won it like 8 times in the last 10 years. But St. John's hasn't won. They haven't been a factor in the Big East tournament in forever. They haven't had a run like this in 40 years. This means so much to them. It means so much to their fan base, which has been ever burgeoning. And if it helps put them in a 2 slot and keeps them in the East where they go Providence, Newark, a lot of fans will go see them play. And that's why tomorrow night's game against the winner of UCONN and Creighton, and doesn't it feel like it should be UCONN? Because the rivalry between Patino and Danny, the rivalry between UCONN and St. John's, what UCONN has accomplished, what they've accomplished the last 2 years in winning the championship as one of the great teams ever, and the fact that they both share a love for the same building, which has annoyed Patino. Because when UConn plays there are as many UConn fans there as there are St. John's fans. That's a fact. That could change in the next couple of years, but it's a fact now. And it'll probably be a fact tomorrow night if they play each other. But first, Creighton and UConn have to meet here in this game. in the second game of the semifinals this evening. Now, a couple other things. We sit here and wait on Aaron Rodgers, and I'll tell you, in New York, we should be getting very used to waiting for Aaron Rodgers. We have gotten very used to waiting for Aaron Rodgers for many years. Okay, many years. He's been here now for a couple of seasons. We waited for him to get healthy. First, we waited for him to join the Jets. Then we waited for him to get healthy. And then now we wait on him again to see if he's going to come to the Giants. And I have no idea. I understand from checking this morning that the Giants feel they made the biggest biggest contract offer to Rodgers. I don't know where Minnesota stands in this whole thing and whether he would even fathom going there not being the starter. I can't see him doing that. I understand why he would like Pittsburgh better than New York from a standpoint of having a winning, listen, he's figuring if I can go there and add a couple of games to Pittsburgh, now all of a sudden they're an 11, 12-win team. If I can go there and just get them in the end zone in key games, if I can go there with that defense and put up 20 points, I'm going to win most nights. And also, you have a very regimented system. He doesn't have to worry about any chaos. He doesn't have to worry about who's good and who's not good. He doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff because he knows the Steelers are good on defense. He knows they will put a useful, if not quality, offensive line in front of him. And you would think if they're going to get him, and they just got Metcalf, if they're going to get him, they're going to let him play quarterback the way he wants to play quarterback. I can't see them bringing him in and changing him. Because how do you take a guy who has his career and change him? It doesn't make any sense. So I know the Giants have offered a 2-year contract that's worth more than anything anybody else has offered. I don't know if it comes down to dollars and cents. I'm sure he's worried about the structure in New York. I'm sure he's worried about the level of quality of player in New York. I don't know what he's going to do. I have no idea. If the Giants don't get him, they mentioned 2 other names, obviously Wilson. And this name just stunned me. I don't know what they would do with Flacco. I'm not knocking Flacco. But to bring Flacco in behind a Giant offensive line, why bother? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense to me. So I'm not knocking Flacco, but if Flacco isn't behind a fortress now, you don't want him. Can he throw the ball? Yes, but he's got to be behind a great offensive line. If he's not, it's just not going to work. Duke hit 2 free throws and won the game 74-71 after leading 45-24 at the half. So they lived to play another day. What that means, who knows? It does mean they're a 1 seed, and they'll be the 1 seed in the East. They survived the Carolina game, even though they did blow a 21-point lead, which is almost unfathomable. So they did get through the game. And again, it just sets everything up so well for St. John's to have that moment at the Garden tomorrow night, to celebrate with their fans in that building, especially if it comes against UCONN, to win the Big East at Madison Square Garden. They love, these teams love to come here and put on a show, and they love to have that confetti falling on them after they win a championship at the Garden. It means a lot. It means you're the toughest in a tough neighborhood. And I'll tell you something right now. Neither Marquette nor St. John's can go into the NCAA tournament and play the way they played tonight, because they would both foul out everybody. Because the NCAA is called much tighter than the Big East calls their games. And they were killing each other tonight in that game. If you watch that game, they were pounding each other. It was a game that was as physical as you're going to see a college basketball game, and much more physical than they allow in the NCAA tournament. So that's where we are as St. John sets up for tomorrow night. You got the Duke saga with Cooper Flag. You got the Giants and their hope, although I don't know if they still are holding out as much hope that they can land Rodgers. You almost kind of felt that if Rodgers was going to jump in with the Giants, he already got his money. He got what he wanted. He would have jumped in. Now it looks like he's looking around. Now it looks like he wants to make sure he doesn't miss any opportunities. And if the Giants have to settle on Russell Wilson, I don't have a good feel for that. I have a much better feel for Aaron Rodgers, although I do worry about Aaron behind a giant offensive line, I have to admit. See, if Aaron had stayed with the Jets, and I understand why they didn't want him, but if he had stayed with the Jets, the infrastructure with the right coaching, the right staff, and a little tooling was there for them to have a really good season, to have a turnaround like the Chargers had under Harbaugh last year. That was there. Now we'll see where that goes. As far as the players, um, it's going to get tricky because they're going to get a lot of Florida winds. And I just spent a bunch of time in Florida, and in the afternoon, if you play in the morning, you can get a kind of still morning. If you play in the afternoon, sometimes, a lot of times, the wind blows a lot. And tomorrow, the wind is supposed to blow in the afternoon. That's when the leaders will go out. So somebody might be able to jump up in the morning. First story there that you have to jump on, okay, before anything else, is what Thomas did. Thomas shot 78 in round one. 78. And you're like, what's going on? And turned around today and shot 62. 62. I've never, ever, maybe someone can give you a time when someone did something like that. And this is, remember, the fifth major. This is the biggest tournament other than the majors, the players. 78, 62 to be 4 under par. There are a ton of players. There are 40 players, 40 players 3 under or better. And Lee and Bate and Spawn are ahead of McIlroy and Morikawa. Morikawa's got this battle going now with the media because of what he did at the Arnold Palmer. He didn't make it any better today. You know what? He'll get himself out of it. The bottom line is go out and play good golf. It didn't bother him. He went out and shot 65 today. Scheffler is 5 under, but he still doesn't look like Scheffler. Rory looked like early this morning he was going to run and hide. He got to 11 under and then fell back. So he didn't do that. He's there at 9 under, but he could always win it. I gave you a couple of guys. I gave you Kim as my 55-1 guy to win it. He's 3 under, which is not bad, but he'd have to make a big move tomorrow on moving day. I gave you Fleetwood at a very good price at top 5. He's 7 under. He's never won an American tournament. He's a very good player. I could see him going north tomorrow. Straka, I gave you also as a guy to finish in the top 10. He's 6 under. He's right there, and he's been playing a lot of good golf. So the board is, wide open. Tomorrow's moving day, and there'll be a lot of craziness tomorrow. You want to watch Scheffler at 5 under, but I don't expect it yet. I think he just, with the injury he suffered, he lost time. He likes to play a lot of golf. And I think his goal is to be ready by the Masters. And I think little by little he's getting there. But I think he's taken this early part of the season to just kind of build his game back. He's hitting the ball very inconsistently for him. He's doing things that he doesn't usually do. So I don't think, and that's why I didn't pick him to win, even though he's favored in every tournament. He has to be. He's been world number 1 for 95 weeks. He's dominated the sport. He's won the Players the last 2 years. He had to be a heavy favorite. But I don't think he's going to win it this year. But there should be plenty of golf, good golf, on the weekend. And the leaders might get hurt because somebody who gets out earlier tomorrow and is finished by 2 o'clock. Might be able to post a really low score before the winds really get crazy. The winds will probably pick up right after 1 o'clock or so, I would think. And they're talking about winds in the 20s, and the wind can blow 2 and 3 clubs there. It does in Florida like crazy. If you can't play in the winds in Florida, that's one thing. Guys who play in the Grapefruit League in Florida in baseball know they get used to playing the outfield. That's crazy because the winds in Florida are just insane. I mean, they really are. The wind blows like crazy. Plenty of days it's blowing 20, 30 miles an hour in the afternoon. That's just the way it is. So what we're going to do is Sunday night when the selection's been out, after I've had a chance to digest the bracket, I'm going to come down and do a long show, probably like 7:30ish, when I've had a chance to analyze the bracket, see what I like, see the matchups I like. What I look for is I look for an overall strength in the bracket, how many tough teams that you have to climb over that I consider tough teams, how many bad matchups that a certain team got, that they have to play teams that are going to give them really big matchup problems, because matchups mean a big deal here. There's about 8 teams that can win this thing, in my mind. No more than 8. I've said all year that Auburn and Duke were ahead of everybody else. That second pack has Houston, Florida, Alabama, Michigan State, also Iowa State, which has had a lot of injuries and has 2 injuries in their backcourt right now that are major. That's why they lost to BYU. They didn't play neither guy played. You got to wonder about them injury-wise. Now you got to worry about Duke injury-wise. And I would put St. John's in there. And I think Tennessee is a Final Four team. I don't think they're a champ team, but they can really beat somebody and cause them. They could derail somebody, but I don't think they'll put the whole thing together. I don't think they are capable of doing that. I think Houston's capable of doing that. I think Florida's capable of doing that. I think Alabama on the offensive end is capable of doing that. And of course, Auburn and Duke have been ahead of everybody all year, but Auburn has hit a little bit of a dry patch. That could be by design with their head coach. He's shrewd. He might have taken the pedal off the metal knowing he needed to. And he's ready to put it right back on now. And he's left it off through a couple of tight losses. Remember, they dominated the best league in the history of basketball in this SEC until the last 2 games when they lost at A&M and then lost a 2-pointer. They lost 2 games in a row. But they're a terrific team, especially when their big man's healthy, and he's been battling injuries all year. The team that no one's talked about all year that's very, very talented is Florida. They have not got enough attention of the bigger teams. St. John's got a lot more attention than Florida has, and Florida is really good. Really good. But we'll go through all that. We'll go through all the brackets. We'll go through the surprises and sleepers and everything else, long shots, the whole thing. We'll do it Sunday night, and then we'll be with you every day during the tournament. We'll be doing something every single day. Remember, you got the playing games. They don't like to call them playing games. I do, but Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you start the tournament Thursday, and away we go. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, around the clock. So there's plenty of stuff. It's a great time for 2 weeks. To me, it's like 2 weeks of just immersing yourself in basketball. And that's over. It's very, very quick. It's 17 great days is all it is. The regular season in college basketball doesn't have an incredible amount of value. We know that. Although this has been a really fun season for St. John's, a unique one. But the tournament is just great. It's a great sporting event. It's a great vehicle. It's a lot of fun over those 2.5 weeks. It really is. So we'll be with you with it every single day, and we'll see you Sunday night for an extensive tournament show. We'll see you later.